Hey there, it's Trisha with Easy Emini Trade, and I wanted to go over the trades for Monday the 24th through Thursday the 27th, going over the trades that would set up during the chat room, and hopefully you guys seeing this over and over again, it will help you in taking your trades. If you have any questions, you can always shoot me an email. If you want more information on the setups that we trade, you can go to www.easyminitrade.com. So in the room, we spend majority of our time on the NQ and the Russell I like as well. So I'm just going to go over the NQ. So this was for Monday the 24th, and right here we got a Three Amigo signal to take a short, but it never triggered. And by never triggered, what I mean is, as we get the signal, what I like to do is, for whatever direction the market, or I shouldn't even say the market, whatever direction price is leading, whatever direction price is going, just prior to us getting the Amigo indicator fire off, that's a direction that will take the trade. Doesn't really matter what the trend is, you're going to take it whichever direction it's going. On the NQ for the Three Amigo, I do ignore all support and resistance areas most of the time. So, but if you're trading any other instruments, you definitely need to pay attention to support and resistance of the floor trader pivots or midpoints or whatever you do. If you hand draw it, whatever you like to do for support or resistance. So it never triggered here, so that's a good thing. Here we got a buy setting up, and that never triggered as well. Even though it still went higher, it still never triggered. So for me, I don't get in late. It either fills me on the very next bar. In this case, this would be a buy. So I put a sell stop a tick above this bar here as it's forming, and once I get my indicator telling me that it's time for a trade, it either fills me on the next bar or I pass. If the three indicators, the three ADXs, remain heading higher, and it's still a valid setup, you could decide to get in above the next bar or the next bar. It's totally up to you. I don't get in late, so you can decide what you'd like to do. In the way of the kaboom setup, I like to be above the moving average from the broader view for a buy or below it for a short, and I'm going to take it with the overall trend. So because of where we were hanging out on the daily on the 24th, which is right here, you can see looking to the left we had a lot of support and resistance created the week before. So definitely important to pay attention to all those support and resistance areas when doing the kaboom entry, to make sure that you've got room to support or room to resistance when you take the trade. So no real kaboom setups at all in the morning on Monday. Here is at 10:13 we have a Three Amigo setup, and that triggers, and away we go. And it's up to you how you manage it. If you're just trading one or two contracts, I suggest just shooting for a specific target of like 2 points. It's again going to be up to you how you manage it once you're in. And this is the 50% retracement area here for regular trading hours is purple star line. And like I said, with the Three Amigo setup on the NQ, I usually don't worry too much about its support or resistance. Now, with that said, if you have an area that has hit and held many times and you're worried about it, then just let it go. Just let it go through and then see if you get a pullback entry. Here we get a counter channel setup, and interestingly enough, back here at 10:13 we have a counter channel setup right at the same exact time that we would be taking the Three Amigo. So obviously, you know, having double confirmation is always nice. But on this counter channel setup right here where it's marked purple, this is an area of resistance above us. This is the 24-hour 50% fib retracement area. So there's not really enough room for me to want to give that a shot. So that's a pass for me. Here you can see you get the kaboom setting up, but you've got support right below you in the way of the 50%, so I'm not interested in that. If you determine that there's enough room for you to take that, then absolutely you take it and it works out fine. You know, we're playing on probabilities here, so that's the idea. You want to take the trades that have the highest probability of working out. This set up for a buy, but this is during the break, and I'm pointing this out because if you're trading during the break, during the doldrums, definitely be aware of how much volume there is. If the volume is really light, then you might want to stay away from taking any trades during that time. And the concern is that you won't get the follow-through, or it'll take forever to work out. So if you're someone like me who after 15 minutes or so has had enough waiting, then trading during the doldrums isn't good for me, because a lot of times you can wind up sitting in the trade for more than 15 minutes. So if I know if I get in, I'm going to wind up just getting out at break even or as close to break even because I'm bored of waiting, then there's no point in me trying to do it. But I don't trade during the doldrums. I walk away from my desk, so that's what works for me. And then in the afternoon, we get an Amigo fire off right here at 2:07, but it never triggers. And what happens is a lot of times when things are slow in the way of light volume or not a lot of movement, you get your indicator firing off, and you place your order a tick above this bar as it's forming, and you'll know that because if you use a range bar predictor, you have an idea of what the high and low of each bar is going to be as it's forming. So you put a buy stop above this bar, and as you're waiting for your order to fill, the Amigo, one of the ADXs, has gone back to red, meaning it's gone back to heading lower. For me, that negates the trade, so I have to cancel. So even though this worked out in a big way, according to my personal trading plan and my personal rules for taking the trades, it was a cancel for me. So in spite of the fact that it did work out, it was a cancel for me. And this actually we took as a range trade at 256, and it was at an area of resistance which I'd hit and held numerous times. You can just look back to the left. And it was risky because of the time of day. I wouldn't do range trades unless it was quiet, and we know, anytime after 3 o'clock, volume can tend to pick up. It really hasn't been that close to 3 here for a long time. It's more like 3:30, 3:45, but nonetheless, you only want to do range trades when it's quiet. So this worked out, fine for us, so I was glad about that. And what I did want to point out is here during the doldrums, you can see that you've got support below you and resistance above you. So when you do get a kaboom setting up, you can see the indicator cross below zero here. We're not below the broader view moving average. You can kind of see it here. It's a stair-steppy line, and it just makes it a lot easier to see. But nonetheless, there's not a lot of space below you to take them, and there's not enough space above you to take them, assuming support and resistance are going to hold. So there's not enough room to get your target. So in that kind of environment, that's what I'm talking about. When you get the kaboom setting up, be aware of your surroundings. How much room is there above you? How much is below you? And more importantly, those are things that you're going to want to pay attention to when we are going sideways. If we have a strong move and not a lot of support or resistance around, that it's a non-issue. But definitely need to be aware of the bigger picture. Look at your daily chart. Look at your 60-minute chart. Just get an idea of where price might stall or get stuck or reverse. And I also forgot to mention the opening range trade, and that's set up for a buy after that opening range, and it worked out just fine, so forgot to mention that as well. So the opening range trade worked that morning as well, and that was for Monday the 24th. Okay, here is Tuesday the 25th, and right off the open, I don't do anything right off the open. The only thing that I'll do is, I'll let it decide what it wants to do and which direction it wants to go, and then I can look for a setup. We did actually get the opening range trade set up for a short, and it worked out just fine. We had to sit through a little nail biter retracement here, but never stopped us out, and away we go. We got 3 Amigos setting up here at 9:47, but we had news at 10, so that would be a pass for me. I use 15 minutes before the news. That's what I like. You can use whatever you want. You can trade the news. It's totally up to you, but this is a pass for me, even though it works out. 10:10, we get an Amigo buy setting up. Works out just fine. And like we were talking about the kaboom setup, you can see here where I have this arrow. We get a kaboom setup, and what you'll want to do is just look to the left and just look at the area that held. So look at this area here, and what I do is I don't assume it's going to get exactly there. I use a little below that. So if you determine that there's enough room to that area, then you take the trade. And obviously it worked out nicely. And I do want to point out for the counter channel setup, you definitely do want to pay attention to support or resistance. So here we actually get the counter channel continuation setup, but it's right into a resistance area. So that's a pass for me, even though it worked out okay. And obviously if you were in here from the kaboom, you wouldn't be trying to get in here as well. You'd already be in. And I've got these guys marked yellow because these set up during the break. And again, as we've talked about before, you definitely need to pay attention to the volume. So you get a short setup here at 12:29. It never triggers. So unless you're willing to get in late, you wouldn't have been in for this move lower here. And then this is at 1:10, never triggers. And then this is at 1:22, never triggers, and again, lunchtime. And here we get a kaboom, a counter channel setup, but we've got support right below of the previous day's low, so that's a pass for me. There's not enough room to take it. There's only about a point's worth of space. So if you're looking for 2 points as your first target, generally speaking, you want more than 2 points worth of room to support if you're taking a short, or more than 2 points worth of room if you're taking a buy up to resistance. Here we get a 3 Amigo, and it never triggers. And like we talked about previously, if you have your order in place and you're sitting there waiting for it to trigger, and one of the ADXs goes back to red, meaning heading lower, for me, I cancel. So that was the case here. And so you're thinking, well, it went on to be a huge trade. Why didn't you just take it? Keep in mind that this bar here, while we're sitting there with our order in place, it took 4 minutes, almost 5 minutes to form. So we're sitting there with our order in place for almost 5 minutes. So even though it looks like it took off in a big way, which it did, we sat there with our order in place for 5 minutes before the ADX went back to red. So for me, I'm fine to cancel it because then we can find another way in. And here's another way in. So price moves and you get a pullback, and you can enter in right under this bar here at 252, taking it as a short pullback entry, and then away you go. Here you got another pullback, and this is at about 310 if you weren't already in from back here. And I like pullbacks to my 30 weighted, so it pulls back. If you weren't already in, you could have taken it there, but we did get a tick extreme right as we got the pullback, and you wouldn't have been able to get in fast enough. These bars happened within seconds, so you wouldn't have been able to get in fast enough. And again, with the the kaboom setup, making sure you've got room above you and below you. So because of when it consolidates and you're thinking you're going to take a buy or a short, but you've got support right below you, this is during lunch, not a great example, you're going to pass unless you have enough room to get your targets. Okay? So if there's not enough room, then just pass, let it go. If you trade the Amigo, you might wind up with one of those setting up. So you'll have another way to get in. Just, again, be aware of your surroundings. And you get a reversal trade here, meaning you could buy it expecting price to find its way back to that moving average from our broader view, but I would not do that toward the end of the day. This is like at 3:20 in the afternoon, 3:15. I wouldn't do a reversal trade at that time of the day, because anything can happen. And then I don't trade after 3:30, so that is it for me for Tuesday. Okay, here's Wednesday the 26th. And You can see off the open we're just going sideways. We actually get the 5-minute opening range trade set up for a short. If it's set up for a buy, I would have passed because of 2,800 being basically right above my head and the low from the previous day. So I was not interested in trying to take this as a buy if it had set up for that opening range trade. It set up for a short and worked out just fine. The hard part about that opening range trade is managing it once you're in, because it does require a large stop. So what I've been doing is once price gets to the point of getting me 2 points, I'll move my stop to that point. So if it retraces, I wind up with 2 points. If it keeps going, then I can trail and get more. You can use the Fibonacci price projection tool to determine what you can use as a price projection. But for me, it doesn't fit my trading personality to sit there with such a large stop waiting for those targets. So, I manage it the way that I can deal with it, and you'll just have to figure out how you'd like to manage it. But it worked out nicely for a short on Wednesday the 26th. Here, this is a pullback entry, but we have news at 10, so I'm not interested. I use 15 minutes before the news, as I stated, so nothing going on here is anything that I'm willing to do. And here you can see you get the a kaboom set up right here, and you would just look to your left and see the areas that held and use that general area as your target. If you determine that there's enough room, then you take it. So it worked out. You just make that determination, okay? And that's still a little close to 10, but you guys can decide what you're going to do around news and put it in your trading plan. Here we get a counter channel continuation setup, but we do have the petroleum status report at 10:30. So for that, I've been using about 5 minutes before. I'm not willing to take a trade, and so I unfortunately had to miss out on that, but it worked in a big way. And again, you just have to decide based on your risk tolerance what your plan is around news items. So once it goes, then I have to wait for a pullback entry. So it pulls back, and here's my entry right here at 10:35 is the time. I wait for price to pull back to the 30 weighted, and then I have these 2 small moving averages on here, and I use that for confirmation when I take pullbacks. I always want basically this white one here to be the leader when I'm taking a pullback entry. And here, just like we were talking about previously about the MACD setup, the kaboom, just look to your left and get an idea of where you can expect price to get to, and decide if you're going to give it a shot or not. And keep in mind, pay attention to where price came from. How much movement was there? If, this was a large move lower, so do you really want to try another short here? Realistically, it's probably due for a larger retracement, so you're probably not going to find your way all the way back down to these same lows. So just be aware of that. Here we get a 3 Amigo at 11:17, and we take it, and it works out for our 2 points. And then during the break, I didn't mark anything during the break that day. And the thing about the indicators that we use for the 3 Amigos, if you're not watching it real time and you don't mark them, at least like the same day, what happens is when you refresh your charts, you're not going to have the indicators showing where they fired off. So if you're interested in looking back, you're going to have to mark them each day, okay? All right, so that was it for me on Wednesday because I had to take the afternoon off. I had hurt my back and needed to go to the chiropractor, so I didn't get to trade anything in the afternoon. On Thursday, the 27th, Price going sideways here. You get an Amigo setting up here on the news. I don't take anything on the news, so nothing for me to do here. If you took it, it failed. So you just have to decide again. And I know I'm being a dead horse, but you just have to decide what you want to do. Here I tried to take a Keltner channel continuation setup and got stopped out. It didn't go anywhere. And maybe it was too close to resistance, but nonetheless it did manage to go here, but unfortunately it retraced, took out my stop, and then went. And again, because of all the sideways action for the kaboom setup, you have to pay attention to how much distance you have. So like here, we get a kaboom setup. Everything's in line to take it. We know we've got support, so if you determine that there's enough room to take it, you take it. Here, everything's not in line to buy it. You're not looking for a short here. Same thing here. You're not likely going to try to buy this as a kaboom setup because you're right at resistance. So if you were trading during the break, you got a 3 Amigo set up here, 1152, worked out nicely. You got another one at 1225, worked out nicely. And if you were trading during the break and you wanted to give this kaboom setup right here a shot, you'd be looking to the left and get an idea of where price would likely get to, and you take it and hope that you get back up there. Took this as a Keltner channel continuation setup that worked out well. And this one here, we took this as a 3 Amigo at 213, and honestly I got tired of waiting, and so I got out with a little better than break even, but a little more than a half hour later it did finally hit the 2-point target area, but it just was taking too long for me. So my issues, you can decide how long you want to wait, but to sit in something, it actually was like 32 minutes before it actually got to the 2-point area. So I just don't have the patience to wait for that, but it worked out. And for anybody who is willing to wait, here you got another buy setting up using the kaboom, but it's after 3:30. And if you are trading after 3:30, then you just look to your left, and you know that this is a strong area of resistance, so you would hope that it would find its way up to that vicinity somewhere. So I hope that helps, and really important, I can't stress this enough, make sure you have room to support or resistance for the setups that you're trading, with the exception of the 3 Amigos. That on the NQ can tend to bust through everything. On everything else, if you're trading the Russell or the ES, CL, natural gas, gold, whatever it is, be aware of support and resistance when you're taking the 3 Amigos as well. Okay, so have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.